Hello and welcome back to Season 2 of the Grooms Perspective podcast with your hosts Katie Mosdale and Martha Haring.
We're opening the stable door and delving into the lives of two eventing grooms, sharing the unfiltered highs and lows as we pave our way through the equestrian world. Available now on all good podcasting platforms.
Hello and welcome back to this week's episode of the Grooms Perspective with Katie Mosdale.
And me, Martha.
And this week we are lucky enough to be joined by a special guest, former four-star event rider, Sasha Hargreaves, who has recently made the decision to step away from the sport. Sasha has come on, kindly given up her time to give us an insight into her career in the sport, the highs and the lows, and her decision to step away and kind of what she's learned and the challenges that have come from doing that. So we're really excited to welcome Sasha and thank you for coming.
Thank you very much for having me.
You're welcome. So do you want to just start by telling our listeners a bit about who you are and, just introduce yourself a bit?
Yeah, of course. So I'm Sasha. I'm 25. I've ridden my entire life. So I started, as a lot of people do, I went to riding school and then pony club. And then I decided at quite a young age that I wanted to be a professional event rider. Left school, set up a yard, did horses for full-time for 7 years, and I now work in an office.
How's that been? We'll obviously go into more detail, but how has that been so far?
It's been surprisingly good. I didn't think the transition would be as easy as it has been, but yeah, it's gone very nicely. I don't miss it as much as I thought I would. I actually haven't. I thought I would be desperate to be back riding, but I haven't yet ridden since leaving in start of July, end of June. So it's been a big transition, but I do still have my retired horse here with me, so I get to still see horses every day. I'm just not quite as full on and involved with it.
Yeah, so if we go back a bit then to kind of what you say that you decided quite early on that you wanted to be a professional event rider, kind of what age was that, and how did that decision come about?
So I was 13 and I hadn't really been that competitive up until that point. I'd always done, like I said, I'd always done the pony club competitions, done pony club champs, but very low level, never done it seriously. And then at 13, my instructor at the time kind of said to me, if you do want to do it professionally, it's a big commitment. You really have to go for it and you have to really commit, because at the time I was playing netball to a relatively high level. I was doing other sport. I was quite academic and quite into my school stuff, and I was also playing instruments. I was trying to do everything. And she just turned around and said, it's really hard work, and in her eyes it's something that you can't just wait for it to happen to you. You've got to make it happen. So yeah, it was when I was 13, which is actually the same year that I did my first ever BE event.
And it sounds like was that at 13, did you then stop doing other stuff? Or was it just kind of that's my thing, or was it,
Yeah, not completely. It was just, I think my priorities changed. I carried on most things. I think I carried on playing netball until I was 16, but I was just aware of the sacrifices. And I think that was the main thing she was just trying to make me aware of, is you can't be... There's a lot of sacrifices that you have to make throughout your teenage years and growing up that you'll have to make. And it was kind of one of those things that if that's what you want, then fine, but just be aware of the sacrifices and be prepared for them when they do come.
Can you hear us?
Am I back?
Yeah. Oh yeah, you're back. That's fine. It's fine, we'll cut that out. We use the term quite a lot between the two of us of we've got in our own head today. And I think it can be like, even if you're just a few hours, or like sometimes you'll end up just hacking 3 lots on your own. And it's like you say, like when you're tired and when you're struggling, like on your own and in your own head can be a really rough place. And as a, like you would have experienced this more as a rider, but if you've got a big ride list, like, and you're just cracking on through that ride list, you've not got time to pick up the phone and speak to people and that kind of thing. So is that kind of when, would you say it was those times that you started to think outside of the sport? Or what was there, how did the kind of transition outside the sport to getting to where you are now, like where did that come from?
I think it's been a slow transition. I think it was triggered at Bramham in 2023 when I did the 4-star long there on my horse. I think that was the catalyst. And it was actually, I think the trigger was I just financially, I could not make it work. Like no matter how many hours I did, however many horses I rode in a day, whatever I did, I just couldn't make the money work. I was renting a yard and I was getting by, but I wasn't ever making money, and it was fine until something bad happened and I don't know, a horse injured itself, or I can't think of a member of staff quit or anything like that. And then in those situations I didn't have enough spare money or I would have to panic to find enough spare money to pay the vet or pay a freelancer while I found another member of staff. And basically it was just catalyst of that. And I sat down. I didn't particularly enjoy Bramham. I had a good week there, like on paper, it was amazing. But I didn't enjoy it from a sport perspective. And then I also was like, okay, well, if I'm struggling in the sport perspective, how's it going in a business perspective? And I looked at the numbers, and no matter what I changed with how many horses versus how many number of staff, and I kind of tried to play it all out and do every different scenario, and I could not find one that worked where I was and doing what I was doing. So that was the initial trigger, and that triggered me to move from my yard to where I was then employed. And then the horse that I did Bramham on, he picked up an injury, so he was then out of it. So I was then I didn't really have anything at a top level to compete. And I know that happens, but it's that thing that you work. I mean, it had taken 6 years to get him to that level. And then it was gone, and my next horse was at 100 at the time. And then when I moved, although it was a much, much easier life. I had days off, I had holiday, I was getting paid. That was when I was then more isolated, a bit more lonely. And I think without that competition goal, I struggled to motivate myself as much.
I was just about to say that's so interesting because like we can really relate to that.
This is
as
literally our
grooms.
daily.
I mean,
this is like we have snippets of this kind of conversation every day.
Like we're not professional riders, and we're trying to do it. The way we do it is that we are a groom so that we can like base with a rider and get the training and the support. But constantly, I'm like, if my horse breaks, then suddenly I will lose all of my motivation, and then that's me down the drain, and all of my hopes and dreams are pinned on this one animal that could go and hurt himself tomorrow, and then suddenly my job's gone and my life. So I can totally resonate with how you feel, maybe on a different level because you were a rider, but even in the groom industry, like it's the same. Yeah, we're both doing this to try and make it work.
There's a huge amount of pressure on the horse, though.
Yeah, it does. It puts a massive amount of pressure on that horse, and a massive amount of pressure on yourself to keep that horse right, even though the chances of something going wrong is 99% out of your control. That's the tricky bit. You can do everything right.
I think I also saw it though because, and I don't know whether you agree, but for I had a girl at the time, she also, like, her goal was to be a groom at that top level. And also we were very close and she was very supportive of me. So I could see like she would do everything and anything in order to keep him sound, to keep him right. And I think it it upset her almost as much as it upset me when he went wrong, because the same thing as her, it was her hopes and her dreams were taken away in the same moment. And it was almost harder for her. It was kind of, I think it was like my dad comforting me and my mum comforting her, because it was as much her dreams that were taken as it was mine in that moment. But it is that thing. And I think, again, it is something that lots of riders experience. And you see riders and they have some good years, and then it takes however many years to build their string back up. And I think I started to see that more and more often. And I saw riders that have ridden around 5-star and successfully ridden around 5-star. And I would see them week in and week out on naughty, tricky, challenging young horses, not at the top level, working super, super hard. And I was just like, God, it's a serious slog to get to that top level. And if when you finally do it, there's then so much stress and so much pressure on, okay, well now, if it goes wrong, that's all taken away again. I didn't like that.
Yeah, and I think I can say that I've actually seen that on a first-hand basis since being with Jeanette, and she wouldn't mind me saying, like, I've been here 7 years now, and the first year I was here, the highest she competed was 1 2-star at the end of the season, because her two top mares had just both had injuries in the same year. And then it has taken this long to rebuild a string to now have 4 or 5 horses at intermediate. And this is a rider that did 7 consecutive championships. So actually, if that's like where we're looking at the sport, if that's the case for a rider of that experience and stuff, like what hope and I don't mean this in a negative way, but like, does a young rider coming through at the bottom, like what message does that give to them? Like, yeah, you can work really, really hard for 30 years, but it is still like a lot of it is luck of the draw at the end of it.
Yeah, I think that's exactly it. And that's the more I saw and the more I spoke to people, it was kind of, not that I had rose tinted glasses when I started it, but the more I did see, the more I was like, you can be the best rider in the world, you can be the hardest worker, and things can still go wrong, and it's completely outside your control. And then that is your career for however many years, completely changed and completely different.
Mm-hmm.
But I also think that is why we do it though. Like if we knew we were going to be really successful and have, you know, win all these titles, like it takes the enjoyment.
I think it's the hope, isn't it, as well?
It's the hope.
Everyone's holding on to the hope of that. Like there is always the success stories of the ones that shouldn't make it and do, and horses and riders and stuff. And I think that's if we all take a step back and look at it logically, none of us would do it ever.
No.
It's bonkers. It's absolutely bonkers.
Yeah, and I think that is probably what the catalyst was. I had a year. I think it was almost 2 years. It would have been 2 years in July, and I made it to June, of having not competed above novice. Mm-hmm. And I think it was that, like, I could step back from it because I wasn't in it. I wasn't like in the sport and competitive in the sport, so I could see it from that outside perspective instead of just seeing it as like, hey, we'll just get through this season, because I think that's what I had been saying to myself. And I was like, it's now been 2 years and I'm walking a novice and I am scared. Like I was like, these are big, and it was that moment that I was like, oh well, I can step back and go, it's because I've not done it for a while. Mm-hmm. But I don't need to keep scaring myself if I don't want to anymore.
Do you think that was like, is that because it had been a while since jumping the bigger tracks that you started to feel that way? Do you think?
I think it's a combination. I think that is one of the reasons. I think fools affect me more than I would have liked to admit. And obviously there's been some bad fools. I am really bad with like visualization, and like I vividly remember when I did Blenheim, I watched someone I knew had a rotation at the third to last, which was like, it was a lovely fence, it was a ditch brush. They just caught a bad stride, had a rotational, horse and rider were absolutely fine, but I watched it on the screen, and for the whole minute before that fence, all I could see in my brain was it replaying over and over and over and over and over and over again. And it was fine, the jump was fine, we got over it. But I then had to, from that point on, I couldn't watch cross country on the day that I was going cross country, because if I saw something, that was it, that was me done for. So I think it is a combination of both. I was always, not always, but I was scared when I got to the higher levels. And I think I was really shook by some of the falls that have happened and we've seen over the last few years.
Mm-hmm. Have you ever had a bad fall, or was it just the seeing the other falls?
No, not really. I had a horse fall once, but it was just he crumpled on landing rather than a rotational. It was quite slow. I didn't hurt myself. I had a rotational in the arena over like a 70 centimetre show jump. But I never had a rotational or a bad fall actually competing. So there was no reason for me to feel that way other than from seeing what I'd seen.
Yeah, and I think when you start to have that bit of doubt in your mind, it would be really hard to go out on course and ride positively and ride in a safe way if you're constantly thinking, what if, or this has just happened. Like, I think then that kind of brings a sort of danger into the sport that shouldn't be there in your head when you're about to leave the start box.
Yeah, and if I watch videos of me riding cross country when I was 20, it was very different from when I was 24.
That's really interesting.
I was a better cross country. I was quite a good cross country rider, I would have said. And I wouldn't have said I was a good cross country rider when I finished.
I think is that as well, like, I think we touched on it recently, like, it is the innocence of youth as well. Like at 17, 18, like, you do feel pretty invincible. Yeah, and like you were quite successful at that age as well, weren't you?
Yeah, I had some good results.
Yeah, so I guess it kind of like it all adds up. Like, you're having good results, you're riding well, and that kind of thing. And then you're confident on board and you should sing. But I do think it not even like you say you've not had a big fall, but I feel like I'm starting to sound like a mum of like, you get to an age, but like there is a point when you're a bit like, you start to see more stuff happening around you and it gets closer and closer to you. And you're like, well, these are then people I know. And it's much harder to separate yourself from it as it is at 17 when you think you can't really relate to it.
To
Yeah.
No, exactly that.
Going back to what you said about Bramham, like, that was probably the biggest result of your career, but you said it was the worst week of your life. Like, would you be able to explain that? Are you happy to explain what you mean by that?
Yeah, of course. I was just nervous going into it because it's hyped up as it being a very big event. And so I was quite anxious. I hadn't had a good prep run. I'd gone to Bicton as my prep run. I'd had 2 run-outs and essentially been bolted with halfway around the course. So I was going with no confidence. And the dressage was fine. Cross-country day, I was just a complete and utter anxious mess. And I was kind of an anxious mess the entire week. I had to hide in the lorry the entire morning. I didn't watch a single person ride it because of what I said previously. And then I literally just checked with my instructor on the way to the start box if I should change my plan anywhere. And I had a good round. It all went relatively to plan. And that horse had always been sounder than sound. He had always been one that I'd had ones that you have to slightly look after more on cross country day, and he had been one that you could ice once and he'd be fine. And we iced him obviously more than once. We iced him a few times, and we left him for a few hours to rest. And then when we went back, he was not sound at all. And so it was then that stress of, what do you do? And so we looked after him. He had treatments. The vet checked him. We did as much as we could. And then the next morning, I didn't think he was 100%, but everyone was telling me he was fine. And it was one of those where the people around me, it's one of those really tricky things that the people around me know that I take confidence from other people. And if they were saying, or maybe not, particularly the professionals, then I would have gone into it with, in the back of my mind, he's not right. And so I think they knew that if I was going to present for Trot Up and show jump, I needed to go in thinking he was fine. I didn't think he was fine, but as I said, all the professionals there were telling me, he's fine, it's in your head. And then he did the Trot Up and he passed. So it was kind of like, well, that's the last thing you need is then those vets were also saying he's fine. And someone there said to me, if you're going to learn in this sport, when you get to 4 and 5 star, have you gone?
Right, we're back. Can you hear us? Sorry.
Hello. We dropped out, but we're back.
Hello.
We could hear you up to you say you just passed the Trot Up.
Where did...
thing.
Yeah, I passed the Trot Up, and so that was kind of another thing to say, you're fine, go ahead, everyone is telling you he's fine. And someone there spoke to me and said, Tasha, you're going to learn at 4 and 5 star. The horses are athletes, they're not your pets, and they are here to do a job. And he's just tired. He's just really, really tired. He had the biggest day of his career yesterday. He's probably just exhausted. You've got one show jumping round to do, and then he's going to have a break. So got on and I rode him. And again, he didn't feel great, but I was like, maybe he is just exhausted. And I rode him and he was fine. He had 3 down, which was unlikely for him, but I knew that I wasn't riding well because I wasn't very confident. And so the whole experience just was a bit meh. I think I came away from it. I went to Blenheim the year before and that was my first 4 long and that was just magical. I came last, I had 2 run-outs, but the whole experience was just lovely and everyone felt so excited and happy to be there. And maybe that was because I was so excited and happy to be there. And then at Bramham, I think I saw the other side and I saw the anxieties, that there was a bad fall there that year. And I think I just saw the other side of the top level of the sport. And then a comment was made a week or 2 later by someone that basically said that I shouldn't be riding on the high for too long because although I came 3rd, there weren't many people there. And I think that was just a bit there's not many highs in this sport. So when you're on one, I would have quite liked to ride on that one for a bit longer.
Yeah, not many people can say they've jumped round Bramham. You should be able to celebrate that. It is the hardest 4-star that there is.
Yeah, well, that's kind of what I thought, and then had that comment. So I think it was a cumulative effect, but I did not enjoy the week, and I don't think my horse enjoyed the week, and I don't think my groom enjoyed the week. Yeah.
No, that's really interesting to hear from the sort of behind the scenes of the event, because if we follow you on social media, so I do remember you being at Branham and from the outside it all looks perfect, and I think that's how social media is portrayed. And I'm you've had an amazing week, the videos look amazing, the photos look amazing, but actually behind the scenes it is not that.
No, exactly. It's a very different story. And it's bad that we're like that on social media, but I think that's always going to be the case. But no, it was not that week. And as I say, and I think that's what's ironic is Blenheim, I came dead last. And that week, was amazing. I'd relive that week any day.
Didn't you win? You won Best Turned Out, didn't you? If I've got that right.
I did, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember.
Yeah, well, my groom did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think you went into Bramham with? Do you think if there was there less pressure, or was it just a completely different situation? Like to try and compare the difference.
Yeah, I think there was less pressure. I think I felt more prepared going into Blenheim. There was definitely less pressure because it was just complete. And although I wasn't at Bramham to do incredibly, I was trying to get 5-star qualified, so I wanted to be doing well enough. And then I think it then did put more pressure on when I was then in a good position going into show jumping. And I don't like pressure very much, which also probably doesn't make me the right person to be a professional athlete.
I hate pressure and I hate show jumping, but here we are.
Yeah.
Still giving it a go. So just quickly talk us through the sort of career change. So after that event, it kind of all unfolded and that was sort of a catalyst into the decision. So what do you actually do now for a job?
So I work for a company that does marketing and media for luxury destination wedding venues. Hence the ring in the background because I'm over in the office now.
And is that something that you wanted to get into after horses, or did it just kind of align with right place, right time?
So it's my mum's company, so I've always been involved. So after Bramham was 2023, and it was then I started having doubts, and I also was desperate for money. So I started freelance working for her, just doing some marketing stuff, just on evenings, and I think I was doing 2 afternoons a week instead of teaching. So I did some of it then, and I enjoyed it. But then it was then that I got the opportunity to move to my employed riding job. So it was just one of those things when I finally was like, I don't want to do this anymore. It kind of just felt like the obvious decision. I'm very fortunate to have had it as an option. But yeah, so that's what I do now. It's not necessarily what the plan originally was, but I'm quite enjoying it, learning about completely new things. And I am actually doing an apprenticeship alongside it to get a qualification because I didn't go to uni. So I am doing that as well.
And so you're talking about university. For any listeners that kind of want to go into the sport straight out of school, and with you knowing what you know now, what would you suggest be the correct path to take in terms of setting yourself up for life potentially after horses?
God, you're getting a bit deep.
Well, I
think that's such a hard one. I think that's so hard because at the time I didn't regret it at all, and no one could have convinced me to go to university. So I wouldn't have gone. I had a place and I just kept deferring it for about 3 years. But I don't know if I don't think I would have enjoyed it at the time because that's not where my head was at. I think if you can try and stay friends with your friends from school that go to university, that's really helpful. My best friend was at Cirencester University, which isn't that far away, and it meant that I could still get some of the uni experience because I could go and see her in an evening and do uni without doing uni. So I kind of enjoyed some of the social aspect through her, which definitely helped because I think I would have had a huge amount of FOMO if I didn't have that at all. I don't know if I regret not having more of a qualification. I definitely think it was worth. My parents made it very clear that I had to get good A-levels and do well in school until I was 18 if I wasn't going to go to university, so that I at least had that to fall back on. But it does make it harder, and that was one of the things that when I was kind of looking before, because I think I was worried about how it would look, me coming and working for my mum, because it is a very fortunate position and I don't want it to look like I've just gone, no, I don't feel like doing horses, I'll just pop over there and do that. So I did look into other jobs, and there's definitely jobs you can get without a university degree, but you're at a much lower starting point. And I think that was also one of the catalysts, is I started looking at other jobs online and coming to that realization that it doesn't matter. I knew at that point that I didn't want to do horses long term. The only reason I was carrying on is because I lived in a nice house, I had good pay, I had nice horses, and it was fine. There was nothing to complain about. But I knew that that wasn't it for me long term anymore. And when I looked at jobs, I kind of was like, okay, I'm going to have to start right at the bottom. I'm only 25 now. I don't mind doing that at 25, but doing that at 30 is going to be harder. What if I want to buy a house? All of that. So that was kind of another catalyst for why it happened now. And then, it took me months to come to that conclusion. And then when I finally did, I approached my mum and asked her if it was a possibility. And then I did actually have to get interviewed by the person that manages her company.
At least she didn't interview you.
Yeah, that would have been weird.
Yeah, I'll be going to HR like, why did I look at the job? Like, come on, where am I going wrong? But I also think that's crazy, actually, you just saying that you struggled without the degree. You found that you would be going in at the bottom, and actually you've successfully run your own business since you were 20. Like, I think that's actually crazy that not having those qualifications had such a big impact on maybe future jobs.
Yeah, I think it depends what you want to go into. Like, I knew that I wanted to go into marketing, and every job I was looking at marketing, you needed some kind of degree. I'm sure there's jobs where you don't, because that was what I always kind of thought, you don't necessarily need a degree. And so maybe it was just the jobs that I was looking at. But yeah, it was interesting.
I can really resonate though with you saying about your head wasn't at uni, because I was exactly the same. Like, and I put everything into school and I did really well at school, but I don't think I could have put the same into uni, because it was a bit like, I was like, let's get to the end of school and then I can do horses. So it's like, I think it's also important not to look back and regret what wasn't necessarily right for you at the time, for like people that are listening as well. Like,
yeah, sure.
I have a friend now who is a rider, but she's a show jumper, and she is now doing a online degree. So she has decided that if she wants to change out of horses in a few years' time, then she can do that. So she's doing an online degree for 3 years. And so there's still options, and there's still other things to do. But as you say, it would have been a complete waste of time, me going to uni at 19, because I would have been elsewhere mentally.
Yeah, you were absolutely on professional event rider at that point, I think.
Yeah, and I think that's a really good message for anyone listening, like even for us to hear, like, you might not have been the right decision looking back now, but actually at that time it was the right decision. And I think that's really important in this sport. Like, you make every decision based on where you are at the time and not where you think you might be in the future.
Yeah.
And in terms of life now, what's good, and is there anything that you miss, kind of thing? Probably not like the 3 a.m. starts.
No, well, my retired horse managed to injure himself this week, so I've had the vet out. I've not missed that.
No.
I'm waiting.
Not missed the vet's bill.
I'm waiting for the vet's bill. No. I have to say, like, at the moment, I don't really miss it. It's probably really bad to say.
No, I think that's really good.
My life
like,
is very...
From an outsider, I think that's a really positive thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought I would. I've been really busy, like, catching up on life, seeing friends that I've not had time to, like, make the effort to properly see in years, like, doing stuff with family, actually, like, making the most of weekends. I kind of thought it'd be a couple of weekends, and then I'd be twiddling my thumbs and going, what do you do with 2 days off? But it's actually the other way around, and I'm going, I could do with an extra day off, because it's actually, you can suddenly fill your life really quickly. And I'm very lucky I get to travel with work, so that's quite fun, that's quite exciting. So yeah, not a huge amount. I did have to muck, but my retired horse is on box rest at the moment, and I had to muck out again this morning for the first time in a while, and it took me forever, and I was like, how did I used to do this in 10 minutes? And I was there for like 45 minutes.
You'll probably like ache tomorrow from like using muscles that you've not used.
Yeah, literally.
No. I'm really pleased to like, it's really nice to hear everything that you said, but also like for you to come across in such a in a really positive way about thing. And I just like as a outsider listening, like what you've done is so brave, and to do it publicly. And I think that it will really inspire a lot of people and just make people think as well. Like, I think we touched on social media, but I think so many people are quite like, it's a big decision. It's a scary decision. And I think a lot of things would stop people is what it seems like to other people. But as the other people, it just seems really brave thing.
That's really nice to hear. But yeah, I think you're right. I think other people's opinions were, I was terrified of what other people would think, but I've had a lot more people saying what you've said, and actually it's helpful hearing. You feel alone when you're struggling with those feelings, because you go on social media and everyone's having the best time and doing everything, and actually it's not the case. And I also want to say that, like, I wouldn't have changed it at all, and I would never want to put anyone off going for it. Because obviously a lot of what I'm saying is it was bad, it was not good. But equally, like, I wouldn't change a thing about it. I also had some incredible times. It just isn't the right career for me anymore. And I think that's okay. What I'm trying to change my mindset. Yeah, exactly. I'm trying to change my mindset from I'm quitting to I'm just changing, just doing something different.
Yeah, and as grooms that work like full time, and sometimes like, well, we question it every day. Actually, It's really reassuring to hear that after horses there is still life. There is still life out there.
Yeah, exactly. And that whilst you're enjoying it, you keep doing it. But it's also, if that changes, that's okay too.
Yeah.
And I think that's the biggest takeaway message for our listeners.
Yeah, someone said to me, like, if you were doing another job, if you were working in, I don't know, accountancy, and you weren't enjoying it anymore, you would just change. And it doesn't mean that you didn't enjoy being an accountant, and it doesn't make it weird that you're not an accountant anymore. It's just things change.
Yeah, no, exactly. Well, thank you so much for giving up your time and coming on and chatting to us. Mainly, we've loved it. I don't know what the listeners think of it.
Yeah, brilliant episode, guys.
But we've really enjoyed it and resonated huge amounts with what you've said, and I hope that our listeners do as well. I think they will.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing.
No worries. Thank you very much for having me.
No problem, and hope to see you soon as a spectator kind of thing.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. So yeah, thank you very much, and
Speak to
see you soon.